iHeartRadio app now.
Children who grow up in poverty are part of a destructive cycle. At Child Fund International, we find this unacceptable. In 25 countries, we are vigorously fighting poverty and improving the lives of children and their families. Learn more at childfund.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. However you may be tuning in, however you may be able to see the show, get online, add your 2 cents, drop those likes, comments, reacts, what have you, or get on the line. You're more than welcome to, as we get into Free for All Friday. We need like a klaxon or an alarm, or like maybe just a charge kind of thing. I don't know. We figure that out back in post. But if that is what we're doing today, getting into all of the questions, comments, concerns, feedback, gripes, creeps, whatever, what have you. That's what we're going to do for the next 2 hours, or a better part of it anyway, once we get past the commercial breaks and all that. And yeah, phone lines are full up at the moment. I didn't think we were going to have to make this a rule, but apparently we are. That's, yes, if you want to get online and get on the line, I should say, with this, as we already got Sean Gardner wishing a good afternoon and happy Friday, with the all caps and emphasis, definitely his as well, as you can see on screen if you're over with us in social media land. We'll open up the phone lines like 5 minutes before the start of the show, or the start of the hour, I guess I should say. We did have an attempt for about a half hour before today. So 5 minutes is, I think, plenty. Like, sure, I get that. Some people want to make sure they get on air and get online with us and get the commentary going. But I don't want this arms race developing of people calling in like 3 hours before the show or something like that. So 5 minutes, that's plenty. And we'll see how this works out. A few things going on in the community, by the way. We're certainly going to get into all the calls, and we will get into all the details that y'all want to today, because, yeah, that's what Free for All Friday means for us and why it's one of our most important days of the week. But was just watching the live stream done by one Mr. George Zavala, previous guest on the show, I should add, who has now filed his ethics complaint, I think is the best way to describe it, against current city rep Cassandra Hernandez, based on the whole gas card scandal that is still developing, and is, frankly, in an interview he did as with other news stations, and you'll probably be seeing that coverage coming up later this evening with them, but he said it right there. He's calling for her to resign, step down over this. So I don't know if this is, I think he was intending to hand it in person. It was a little bit of a media stunt, because that's the kind of thing that you do in those situations. But I think he was then instructed to hand it in electronically, if I heard him correctly during the stream. And interestingly enough, he brought up a previous caller on this show, Mr. Jerome Tillman, as part of his considerations toward this, including the idea of common sense, which has sometimes been said to be not so common anymore. So we also have Monica Cervantes joining us. TGIF indeed. Thank goodness it's Friday. And a lot to get into. So let's dive straight into those phone lines. If you are wanting to get on a little bit later, because, yeah, they're full up right now. If that whole comment about when we can start calling in wasn't clear enough, the number, keep it in mind, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Let's kick it off here. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Headline in the Texas Tribune: voting laws in Texas are the most restrictive in the country. And voter turnout here is among the lowest, too. Maybe those facts are related. So the question is just how hard is it to register to vote and then to vote in Texas? And according to this research done by scientists at Northern Illinois University and Jacksonville University, it is harder than in 49 other states. And obviously, it's not impossible to vote in Texas, but Republican state legislators have erected obstacles throughout the voting system. And when you compare the comfort and convenience of voting in Texas with other states, Texas ends up at the bottom of the list. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Texas right-wing politicians, they've been doing everything in their power to maintain power with gerrymandering and voter suppression of minorities and young people. And they have also reduced the number of polling stations greatly, by 50% in some parts of the state. And supposedly Texas has the most restrictive pre-registration law in the country. So it shouldn't be surprising that Texas has one of the lowest voter turnout rates in the country. For example, in 2018, they had a turnout of 45.6% of the population of eligible voters, as opposed to something like 49.4% for the national average. And this is according to the United States Election Project. So that's what I had to say on that. I know you've bemoaned the low voter turnout, as all of us who are concerned about our system do. But at the same time, it could also be said that if 99% of the people went out and voted, and you had the same candidates bought off by the same special interest, how much better off are we really? Meatball Ron DeSantimonious is challenging Trump for the president, for the Republican nomination for the presidency. Now, this guy's really smart. This guy's Harvard Law. He's a Yale undergraduate, and he has military. He was a military officer, so he's very, very sharp. But they're saying he doesn't have a heck of a lot of personality, and it's going to be very interesting that now we have this guy in the race. And what's really interesting is that Trump has already said that he will not debate his Republican opponents. And the RNC has already said that it won't participate in the presidential debates. Now, I think that shows them to be cowards. Well, what are they afraid of? What a bunch of anti-democratic wussies. Wouldn't you agree with me on that?
I mean, I do certainly prefer debates. Now, that doesn't necessarily make, just because you can shout about it louder, good policy, but I appreciate a candidate being able to vociferously and strenuously defend their points and their perspectives on it, because it kind of, if they can't, well, it leads you to have questions about their convictions, their ability to follow through with it. Whether that actually translates through to ability to govern is dubious at best, but, well, we air debates. I enjoy airing the debates. I'm about the politics, so maybe that's more my perspective than anything. I will say, yeah, our voter turnout rates, I'm going to be happy / surprised if we get into double digits locally anyway with this runoff election right now, which, by the way, we are going to be getting into the rest of the campaigns as much as possible, have on the schedule, if we have to still confirm some details, with the other candidate in that EPISD district number 6, that of Jacqueline Martinez, but TBD, more details as soon as we can exactly say it there, but probably early next week is the expectation when we're in the midst of early voting. But I got to say this, I get what you're saying about the ability to register to vote, but I mean, according to the county of El Paso in some of, the election results, of course, and things like that, I mean, we have, I don't have the exact number. Okay, it is right there. As of Friday, May 26, 2023, we have 489,455 registered voters here in the city of El Paso, county of El Paso, be more exact here. And of course, lion's share of those reside in there. That's by no means all of the people in El Paso, but of course, there's some categories that are not going to be able to do so. Those that are not citizens, those that are not of age yet. So, I mean, I think Texas, I can't remember if they actually passed motor voter, or if that came up the last time I went to the Department of Public Safety for that one here. But I mean, I've never had a particular issue with voting, but then again, I'm not part of those, categories of like low income, rural, or any of those other kind of factors that might make it more difficult for me. So my experience is by no means the total goal with all of this. But I will say this, that sure, there may be some difficulties, because I've said, as much as you want to have, verification, the ability to make sure that people who are registered to vote are, supposed to be able to, those kind of things, verification, security systems, etc. But if they're not complemented by, and here's how we will make it accessible, accessibility efforts that, sure, keep them secure, I'm very much opposed with politicians choosing their constituents, gerrymandering being talked about. And this is not a phenomenon, unfortunately, that has any political affiliation, as we've seen it. When there is control to be had, it is often sought, because if you don't have control, you can't get through what you want. It's part of the playbook that, unfortunately, we've seen rolled out nationally when it comes to politics. Again, in any particular state. I think Rhode Island might be the only one that's exempt, only unlike Wyoming, because they're so small otherwise, but that's more kind of at the national level, not necessarily even within their state politics, like the representatives, so to speak. There's definitely not, I'll guarantee there's not gerrymandering of the representative in Wyoming because there's one. But I will say that I'm not quite getting the correlation that you're describing between voter registration and voter turnout, because by its definition, the turnout, these are people who are already registered, who already have gone through that process. So okay, I'm not saying there might not be any contribution, but I got to say that there's some other serious disconnect when, again, the last school board election, we had during the general election, I believe it was a 3% voter turnout that then doubled to 6% during the actual runoff itself there. So I'm not sure that that's going to be a solution, even if I'm not in favor of it either-wise, if you get what I'm saying. If that makes sense.
Yeah, as far as solutions, so this is a country that took man to the moon and back, that split the atom, that defeated the Nazis during World War II, that rebuilt Europe, that created the internet, that can do anything it sets its mind to with the scientific, organizational, financial resources that we have. Okay, and we can't develop a totally secure and accessible voting system. It defines logic. They don't want it. We should have it so that there is no question about the legitimate winner of the presidency or of any office. But we haven't gone there. What is it? We can't go there? We don't have what it takes to do it? It is ridiculous. It reeks of manipulation by powers behind the scenes who profit from a system where very few people go and vote, where the candidates who they vote for are bought and paid for, or enough of them are bought and paid for by those forces, so that they get the kind of policies, the kind of governments that they want. And thus we have a country where 35 million people are poor, where the majority of them are kids and people from minorities, a group of people who have been discriminated about for hundreds of years, whose wealth is 1/10 of whites. The wealth of blacks and browns is 1/10 of whites. And so that's what we have. And it's no wonder that some people don't vote, because they don't think their vote matters. They're cynical about it. They've given up on it, or they're just so busy struggling to get by that it just gets by on them.
I don't necessarily disagree with you on the idea that some people are just too busy. I mean, look how the way life has evolved in, even the writings of, Alexis de Tocqueville, about how enthusiastic Americans were about their civic politics, their forming of organizations. I mean, we've got a whole level. Like Netflix didn't exist, for example. But I will say that it used to be flipped, that consideration, that it used to be considered a luxury to be able to avoid and not pay attention to politics, because you didn't think it could affect you. How that got flipped, I am really not sure. That's more of a sociological question, probably, at this point in time, because I don't have a good pithy answer on that. But I will say this, that if more people don't start paying attention to it, I don't think it's going to get better. So if you construe this as being at all going against having more people voting or in favor of gerrymandering, I have no idea what show you're listening to, because in this show, we want people to be involved in their government, and anything against that is, well, good luck with that. You're not going to have a good time on this show. Anyway, appreciate the point in the call, because talking about these things is important here. We're going to go ahead and take that first break of this hour right now. Coming out of this break, we're going to get to more of the points, more of the questions, more of the calls y'all got. So don't forget that phone number. Of course, if you want to get on the line, is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Heavy congestion eastbound on the border highway at the Zaragoza exit. That exit ramp is blocked due to heavy traffic. I-10 eastbound at Airway, it's a stalled semi that's blocking the right shoulder. I-10 westbound slow with bumper-to-bumper traffic and 7-minute delays from Hawkins to the Patriot. And heads up for an injury accident southbound Airway at Viscount. Gary Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Come shop Memorial Day deals now at Lowe's. Prep meals for the whole family on the new Blackstone 28-inch flat-top grill. Just $298 for a limited time only. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 5/31. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sun Up Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. I have a huge announcement. Thank you for making us #1 in total sales this year. To stay #1, we're offering the biggest savings ever. Hey, Jojo, tell everyone about our exciting offers.
You got it, boss man. Get huge savings on the biggest selection of new and certified pre-owned vehicles in El Paso and surrounding areas at Sun and Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Right now, get 10% off MSRP on all 2023 Ram 1500 Laramie trucks in stock. Get $5,500 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport. Get super low 2.9% APR for 72 months or $5,250 cash allowance on 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star trucks. Plus, don't worry about your trade or credit. Our aggressive lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. It's the season of huge savings at Sun and Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, at I-10 at Sun and Park Drive, or online at sunandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso Strong. Please factor rebate and dealer discount plus DTNL. 2.9% APR, 1515 per thousand finance. All select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Car crimes are on the rise. Protect yourself and your valuables this holiday season. When you park your car, always lock it down. Never leave keys in your vehicle. Never leave your windows down. Don't leave your valuables in plain sight, or you might return to a terrible sight. Try to park in well-lit areas. And most importantly, always lock it down. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com.
Jesse Kelly here. I'm not a financial expert, but I do look for solid investment opportunities for investment growth and protection against loss. I do know that putting all your eggs in one basket is not a good financial plan. Securing your IRA or 401k with real gold and silver with Oxford Gold is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Or you can buy precious metals and keep them in your safe. One app, one call, and you pick your precious metals. That's 833-404-GOLD. That's 833-404-GOLD.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media channels, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one, but also find us under similar other Talk Facebook pages, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. A lot of different questions, a lot of different comments, a lot of calls coming in as well, of course. Okay, the last line just filled up, but that number to call if you want to get on the line is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Had a call about the reference I made right at the top of the show about the late, great Jerome Tillman, who, the caller informed me, actually would have been would have celebrated his birthday if it weren't for his passing previously in these last few days here. But yeah, I was speaking about, in reference to that, for anyone who missed it but was interested, was referring to the live stream that George Zavala, essentially a disability rights advocate, but also a political activist in his own right, filing an ethics complaint against city rep Cassandra Hernandez, because she is still the sitting rep involved in this gas card scandal. Not by any means the only one. Some former reps are, but he's in her district, so he's filing against her today. So that's a part of what's going on there. And he referenced Jerome Tillman and his views on sense, common sense, or maybe the lack of actual commonality of it these days here. Anyway, let's get back to those phone lines now. We do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, Andrew, thank you, and happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you as well. What's on your mind?
Yes, before I talk about the Dignity Act of 2023, I just wanted to respond to your previous caller, that Raul fellow.
Sure.
Okay. Registering and voting in Texas is not difficult at all. It is harder to get a dispensa at the food bank than it is to register to vote, or even even voting itself.
Okay. I mean, I've never had to deal particularly with like any of those status issues, food stamps, or any of those type of programs in Texas, but I would assume it's not that simple either.
Well, no, I'm talking about the food bank, Andrew.
Oh,
but
the food
anyway,
bank. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Like I said, I've never had a problem voting. If you value your right to vote, okay, you'll make sure you have the proper credentials, whether it be your birth certificate, to prove that you're a U.S. citizen. Make sure that your address is current, and it's like I said, it's easy. It's easy to vote. You go in there, and if you have your voter registration card, and there's several types of IDs that they accept. I've never had a problem. None of my friends at vote have ever had a problem, and I just don't see what the problem is.
Basically, the way I've heard of this, and this is not my experience either, I'll say that up front, but I mean, the issues that have been brought up have been about if there are areas where there is not accessibility of, say, the offices in which you have to go to present yourself in person to do this, and or the ability for those that maybe don't have the proper, birth certificates, not because they are not authorized to do so, but because they don't have those kind of records available to themselves. So those have been some of the issues that have been brought up, and that by not means all of them, by advocates on the other side of things here. So I'll just say this: if you want to have security with this, please, fine. Actually, by all means, let's do it. But I also think that accessibility also has to be a part of it. And I do think that Texas is lacking in the accessibility part, particularly for those that, are on the fringes of this. That still, again, legal right needs to be there. Absolutely. We're not talking about anyone that is not otherwise authorized to be able to vote. But for those that have, difficulties, I mean, there are still people alive now who may not have had a birth certificate when they were born, those kind of things. I mean, Texas has not always been as developed as it is now, and not all parts of it are even as developed as other parts are now. So, like, those situations can exist, and if those kind of situations aren't being taken into account as like, well, it's a minority of cases, then there is a choice being made to leave people behind, and that does need to be addressed.
Well, there's several ways to go about it, but as to the birth certificate, if you're born in the United States, they're available from whatever register. I mean, you can request them online. You can, if don't spend the money on a 10-pack. Don't spend a couple of dollars getting a latte at Starbucks, and you can get your birth certificate. Like I said, I was able to do it at a young age. I went down. I didn't even have a car at the time. I went down on the bus downtown to get a birth certificate and register to vote.
Again, I'm not talking about like necessarily anyone's individual situation, though. There is a person that I have met in my life that was either 95 or 96. They weren't sure because there was literally no documentation available to them. So yeah, modern day, current moment here, I'd be surprised if anyone that isn't like in a disaster scenario being born would not have the availability in order to get their birth certificate. But I mean, we still have developments that are going on. So again, that's why the accessibility component comes in, of dealing with those situations, making sure people don't fall through the cracks is an important thing overall, I would definitely argue.
Yes, understood. But anyway, concerning the Dignity Act, sure. I think you've read through it, have you?
The one sheet here, and then there's the other one that I've been delving into. It's on Veronica Escobar's, Representative Veronica Escobar's House website, escobar.house.gov. There's the 50-pager line item one that I'm also working my way through currently. But yeah, the 4-page one sheet, somewhat oxymoronically named, is the one that I've been referencing the most, along with, of course, the El Paso Matters reporting on this is a pretty good overview, kind of 30,000-foot analysis.
True. I'm trying to work my way through the long version, but anyway, the The synopsis, to me, is overly broad. In other words, it gives too much. From what I see, it gives too much leeway, makes it too easier. In other words, creates new legal pathways for economic migrants and unaccompanied minors. To me, it's we shouldn't make it that easy.
So when you're talking about the parts of, say, trying to reference it here, I got too many tabs in front of me, particularly the pathways to citizenship, like the redemption program, as is noted in the one sheet, a secondary 5-year program available to dignity recipients at the initial 7-year dignity program. Participants must complete additional requirements. Upon completion, recipients would be eligible to apply for citizenship. The original one being participation in the dignity program. They have to pay $5,000 over the course of the 7 years, as well as pass a criminal background check, pay any outstanding taxes, and begin or continue paying taxes.
Well, that's well and good, but in other words, are we gonna allow more individuals in because they're suffering from economic consequences in other countries?
Well, based on the current policy, well, the one that's being put forth with this, I would say no, but I will say that there does create more avenues for entry. Like, it does have the certified agricultural worker, renewable legal status for undocumented agricultural workers, and does have the the Dreamers, the Keep Families Together, that redemption program, and also military service. So I don't think this, to my reading of it, I haven't seen much of an asylum change when it comes to this.
Okay. Item 2 grants legal status to undocumented immigrants already living in the United States with a possibility of earning citizenship. Okay. Is there another metric in there that is, because I haven't, like I said, I'm barely scratching the longer version, but is there a metric in there as to time that they've been in the United States, or do you just have to show, hey, I'm in the United States?
Yeah, the kind of way that that's kind of in the concept of Dreamers already. So I haven't seen that listed out specifically, at least not in the parts I've gotten into. And there's a lot of cross-referencing in the 50-page document. How many got it right up here? It's technically 49 pages, more specifically. So it does create the dignity program, the dignity legal status. Basically, I think it's for those currently in the country. It's noted here that this could bring up to 11 million undocumented people out of the shadows, according to the one-pager.
Okay. Yeah, I read that. That's an interesting point there. Okay, then another border security requires CBP to construct and deploy enhanced barriers where it is most effective and beneficial to establishing an operational advantage at the border. Now, the last bullet point there, it says no funding for restarting construction of the Trump border wall or similar cross-border barriers. Might be a contradiction in terms right there.
I could see that. I mean, it does talk about the third point under that same one you're talking about, requires CBP to make several essential technology upgrades, including secure communications technology, integrated surveillance systems, updates to license plate readers, and biometric exit data systems. So I think it's more along the idea of the enhanced part of the barriers. Sounds like it might be the focus there to me.
Very, very possible, but you do have parts of Texas, that are completely open, and they are used extensively by cartels and coyotes to smuggle in migrants.
I mean, not even just in Texas. I mean, we've got Sunland Park, New Mexico. I think that we've already seen, maybe not, of course, not under this. This isn't even becoming out of committee just yet, even if we're going to keep our eye on this and the kind of narrow pathway it has to actually make its way into law, if it's possible to do so at this point in time. Still remain dubious about that given the political climate. But, I mean, we've seen more things being deployed out there. Like, I've had other people, I still need to drive out that way. I've not had the chance yet, maybe this weekend over the long one, to go and see about if there is that new aerostat that seems to have been deployed out towards Santa Teresa way that might have coverage of that, but I'm not too sure about what kind of technology is being developed there. There's probably further conversations and maybe FOIA, but that might not be as part of FOIA. We'll see what we can do with that, basically. But, I mean, we've got the base of Mount Cristo Rey. I mean, there was that We Build the Wall section, which also has its own implications also with the organization of it. Do not get me wrong. But then we've got now come on the other side of us, downstream on the Rio Grande, we've got Big Bend, in which it's not really conducive nor of real interest, to the very least, to the last few representatives that have come through that area to see that blocked off in such a way. And frankly, when we're talking about large open stretches, I mean, sure, in areas where, I mean, there's been the pictures we've all seen online, right, where you've got, the barrier, and then, U.S. and Mexico, and there's either cities or developments right up next to each other. In circumstances like that, like we see through most of El Paso, has existed in El Paso for decades before this point, or before Build the Wall became a popular political chant, that we already had those kind of things in El Paso. So I think there's different levels of feasibility. I think that the focus needs to be not so much on having any one specific thing deployed, but on what does it actually allow you to, what is needed in that area, and what responds to it. Because ultimately what I come down to is that you're going to need people. You have to have people to interdict these things if you're truly wanting to do so. Because if you just got physical barrier, good, that might be a deterrent, it might be an obstacle, but if you don't have someone backing it up, basically, you are still just making it a delayed at best. So if you don't have more people, and therefore the information that the people would need to respond to it, it kind of doesn't work out the best in the long run, in my mind, anyway.
Very true, very true. And there's just places in Texas and other parts of the border that are not feasible to construct physical barriers. Sure. I understand that, but I refer to Texas a lot because Texas has the largest border in the south.
Oh yeah, it's the lion's share of it, to be sure.
Very well. Anyway, Andrew, I'll let somebody else come on. I've taken enough of your time, but have a good weekend and good Memorial Day.
Yeah, sure thing. You do as well. Thanks for the point in the call.
Very well.
And with that, let's go and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, more calls, more comments. Try to get to a few more here. Anyway, already halfway down through this first hour of the show. Don't worry, got another hour and a half to go, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. That phone number again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A controversy at El Paso City Hall continues. City Rep Cassandra Hernandez and former City Rep Claudia Rodriguez are accused of abusing their city-issued gas cards. Originally, the El Paso Police Department said that the case was closed when the DA's office declined the case. But now, El Paso DA Bill Hicks says that was a miscommunication. He says the El Paso police detective misunderstood. Hicks said that led to an erroneous claim that the DA's office had indicated a lack of evidence for a crime. It's unclear if that means that the investigation will be reopened. And we're waiting to learn more after two motorcyclists were killed in a crash in south central El Paso. It happened last night on Loop 375. According to police, several motorcycles were involved in the crash. Two were killed, but no other information was immediately available. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Heavy congestion in the lower valley on Border Highway at the Zaragoza exit. The exit ramp is blocked due to heavy traffic there. I-10 westbound between Hawkins and the Patriot, 7-minute delays. An injury accident southbound Airway at Viscount. And a crash with injuries eastbound Edgemere at Saul Kleinfeld. Try George Dieter or Turner as your alternates. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. A look at your Memorial Day weekend forecast. Partly cloudy skies for our Saturday. 10% chance of an isolated storm for tomorrow. We'll see partly to mostly cloudy skies for Saturday. Sunday, a little breezy at times, more sun, high around 90 degrees. And then we go mostly sunny and breezy for Memorial Day Monday with a high around 92. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Come shop Memorial Day deals now at Lowe's. Save on appliances with up to an additional $1,000 off select major kitchen appliances. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 5/31. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See store at Lowe's.com for details.
No, not now. That sounds like it's going to cost you.
I know what to do. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, I could have the money in my account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast,
be the hero. Go to cashnetusa.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
Hi, I'm Scotty Clark from Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing. The heat is back, so get ready, El Paso. It's going to be a long, hot summer. At Scott Heating and Cooling, we're ready to help you maintain and service your home and business HVAC system. We service all major brands of heating and cooling equipment, as well as commercial kitchen equipment and walk-in freezers. With appointments available 7 days a week, make an appointment online or call Scott Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing today at 915-595-4529.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Come shop Memorial Day deals now at Lowe's. Prep meals for the whole family on the new Blackstone 28-inch flat-top grill. Just $298 for a limited time only. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 5/31. Selection varies by location while supplies last. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at kcsmradio.com.
Text and whatever. Just don't text and drive. Visit stoptextsstopwrecks.org. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Okay, so doing a little bit of a deeper dive into the whole line by line, a little bit more. It's not the 500 pages, but the 50 pages of the Dignity Act. It is on page 30. On the DREAM Act, it does have the permanent resident status on a conditional basis for certain long-term residents who entered the United States as children, so DACA, aka being known as Dreamers. It does have requirements of them having been continuously present in the United States for 3 years prior to the enactment of this act and were 18 years or younger when they entered the United States. It also does have that... I was just looking at it. There's a lot of other references. Believe it cannot have been outside of the United States for more than 90 days at a time or 180 days total. So there are some of that in answer to the question previously, but a lot of the other comments coming in, a lot of other points being brought up, including John Browson referencing the We Build the Wall border wall, calling it the best border wall built in El Paso. It's in Sunland Park, but that's maybe a little bit technical. They're saying it's ground sensors. Hadn't heard about that part. Definitely lights, cameras, concrete, roadway. I mean, we can see it if you go to the right part of the, kind of like over towards the one edge door parking lot. We can see it from, if I didn't have walls in between me here, I could see it from where I'm sitting right now, except we don't have windows in this ding-dang studio. So, I mean, I've seen it. Haven't been up close, touched it, etc. Haven't tried to gotten there. It's Bernadette referring to as the tortilla curtain, because I guess that's also part of the problem is that it kind of leaves a little bit to be desired, because sure, it goes straight up that hill, but doesn't exactly have a gap at the top. But let's just say there's still a very heavy Border Patrol presence around there, because there's, well, a lot of porosity of that section. I mean, the entire base of Mount Cristo Rey, there's signs at the bottom of Cristo Rey if you go up there on like non-feast festival pilgrimage days, there are signs saying like don't go or you take your own risk in hand, because odds are that the stories I've heard from people is that it'll be someone waiting at the top to greet you to relieve you of all your worldly possessions, because so it's not a great idea if there is not a security presence there, because some nefarious people have been taking advantage of that situation. So, I mean, if you like it, that's fine. I was more referring to the fact that there have been legal consequences on the back end of the operation of We Build the Wall. So that's also going on. Anyway, let's go ahead and take that next call right now. We do have, I believe, on the line, Jerry in Northwest on the line with us here right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my
call.
Yeah, sure
I
thing.
want to answer John in the Lower Valley.
Oh,
He
okay.
had a question last Friday of where Eric found and was discussing the thing about the immigrants or illegals coming across the border. Now, I know you don't like me calling them illegals, but they are breaking the law.
If they enter
Okay,
illegally, sure. Mhm.
Okay. Reason why Eric is incorrect in his assumption and misleading is because none of us were held in Egypt as slaves. We were not in Egypt, none
Okay.
of us. And it specifically says, because you were in Egypt as a foreigner, then you should treat foreigners good because they mistreated you. But none of us were in Egypt held as, foreigners in Egypt held as slaves. So that's where Eric is wrong.
I mean, just to be fair, I mean, given that this was, I can't remember, again, not a theological scholar, not pretending to be one, but I want to say this is either from or along the lines of Sermon on the Mount, of which the audience this was being spoken to was also not of that generation who was held there either. I think it was talking more in the idea of God's people, that this has happened to them, therefore show the same kind of charity that you would have wished to have received. But that's more my interpretation.
Well, it could be, but also if they're going to go back that far, then and they're going to not do all the rest of the laws that were laid out in the book of Leviticus, because this is in Leviticus.
Well, sure.
Chapter 19, verse 34 that Eric was reading from. But anyway, if you're not going to hold up all the rest of the things, which in the case, if you go to chapter 20, it talks about homosexuals, right? Men sleeping with men as they would with women, and you are to put them to death by stoning if that happens. So we're going to pick and choose which ones are good and bad. Now,
I mean, there's
John's
also mixed
question
cloth,
was,
shellfish. I mean, there's a lot in Leviticus. Let's just be honest.
yes. John's question particularly, did Christ specifically speak of foreigners coming into the land? Yes, as you said in the Sermon on the Mount, he discussed that portion of it, a small portion of it. But also, Christ being God did discuss it in the book of Leviticus. So that's the other answer to him.
Sure.
Are we to treat foreigners with respect and dignity? Yes. But are the foreigners supposed to obey and abide by our laws? Yes. When they break our laws, are we supposed to put them in jail? Yes. If I'm a citizen and I break the laws and it's a serious enough law to be put in jail, am I supposed to be put in jail? Yes.
I mean, sure. Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, render unto God that which is God. Yeah, very familiar with that whole concept of it, because there is still, earthly and heavenly authorities that come into this. Again, not looking to become a theological debate society here, but generally, I think one of the most important messages that comes out of all of this is, to boil it down very simply, and that can be applied to most anyone in life, is don't be a jerk. That's a kind of a good encapsulation that I like to follow.
Yes, that is correct. And when we're going to get into that, I want to read you something here that was just come out today. That deals with the DHS, Department of Homeland Security.
All right, briefly, if you can.
Okay. Well, it's going to take a little bit. The Department of Homeland Security funded college program equates conservatives and Christians to militia and neo-Nazis. And you can find this on the Blaze. It has a pyramid of far-right radicalization, and basically they're doing the same thing to the Christians and to the right. What happened, our government is doing the same thing the German government did in the 1930s to the Jews. So just heads up out there, Christians and Catholics. The FBI has a list, and they even have an acronym. If you attend a mass that was in old Latin, they consider that mass to be part of a not a neo-Nazi, but a radicalized group. So, and they even have an acronym: Catholics Radicalized
by I don't remember the third letter of it, but you can also look that up. It's on the internet. So they even have spies in the Catholic churches sometimes. So the government coming against Christians and conservatives like they did in the 1930s is starting to occur.
I get what you're saying, and I haven't seen the report you're talking about specifically from the Blaze you're talking about, but I've seen similar ones. I mean, there's been stories about this for a minute now about particularized, radicalization that they're talking about there. I don't think they've talked about, at least the way I've seen it previously, about Latin Mass being a actor itself, but of being like part of a pipeline, essentially, I think is the way I've seen it come out from some documents that have been released. Again, I'll just put it this way. Again, if you're missing the whole don't be a jerk part and using it not as the, love another as you would yourself, golden rule kind of stuff, when it comes to this here, you might be missing some of the point of it. I'll put it that way. And so others saying that, well, no, this justifies why some people say shouldn't exist. I'm also going to come down against that kind of ideology, regardless of what it is being called.
Yeah. And again, name calling and saying that all Christians are, right-wing Christians are part of a group that don't like other people. He's completely offline, Eric. You're completely offline. I've done more for immigrants in this side of the world than you'll ever know about, to help them, not to hinder them, to help them. So thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. Yeah. And I hope that clears that up for John down in the lower valley.
Yeah, well, thank you. Appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there. All right, with that, let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Probably coming back for a short segment, but we'll see what we can squeeze on. And, of course, those phone lines available, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A controversy at El Paso City Hall continues. City Rep Cassandra Hernandez and former City Rep Claudia Rodriguez are accused of abusing their city-issued gas cards. Originally, the El Paso Police Department said that the case was closed when the DA's office declined the case. But now, El Paso DA Bill Hicks says that was a miscommunication. He says the El Paso police detective misunderstood. Hicks said that led to an erroneous claim that the DA's office had indicated a lack of evidence for a crime. It's unclear if that means that the investigation will be reopened. And we're waiting to learn more after 2 motorcyclists were killed in a crash in south central El Paso. It happened last night on Loop 375. According to police, several motorcycles were involved in the crash. 2 were killed, but no other information was immediately available. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A gravel spill in the lower valley on Loop 375 southbound at the 10 eastbound. The connector ramp is closed due to that spill. Border Highway eastbound at Zaragoza, the exit ramp at Zaragoza closed due to heavy congestion. In the Spaghetti Bowl I-10 westbound at the 110 south exit, that's 22B, the left interchange ramp is blocked due to heavy traffic. And eastbound Edgemere at Saul Kleinfeld injury accident. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Come shop Memorial Day deals now at Lowe's. Save on appliances with up to an additional $1,000 off select major kitchen appliances. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 5/31. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See store Lowe's.com for details.
Hey, Sean Hannity here from my friends at Lone Star Transfer. If you felt like booking your timeshare was difficult in the past, it's recently been almost impossible. Now, most clients are shocked to learn that their timeshare is now available to the public, and that severely limits booking options. Many owners have also reached out, and they're upset that their yearly dues have nearly doubled during the maintenance fee season. Now, for well over a decade, our friends at Lone Star Transfer, a family-owned company, they have had the pleasure of helping thousands and thousands of people legally and permanently get out of their never-ending timeshare fees. Now, Lone Star Transfer guarantees the release of all liability to your timeshare in writing and in a specific time frame. Call my good friends for a free, no-obligation consultation. Write this down. Call today, 833-594-0075. 833-594-0075. They're online at LoneStarTransfer.com.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. I have a huge announcement. Thank you for making us #1 in total sales this year. To stay #1, we're offering the biggest savings ever. Hey, Jojo, tell everyone about our exciting offers.
You got it, boss man. Get huge savings on the biggest selection of new and certified pre-owned vehicles in El Paso and surrounding areas at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Right now, get 10% off MSRP on all 2023 Ram 1500 Laramie trucks in stock. Get $5,500 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport. Get super low 2.9% APR for 72 months or $5,250 cash allowance on 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star trucks. Plus, don't worry about your trade or credit. Our aggressive lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. It's the season of huge savings at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance. All select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
A catalytic converter is an important component of your car's exhaust system. It's a total catastrophe if your catalytic converter is stolen. Park in well-lit areas. Install a protective device or etch on your VIN number. Learn more at LockItDownTX.com. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority.
Finding a great hire can be a challenge. That's why there's Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 toward your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app. We are super short timing at this segment. Was mildly right in my analysis. So got one comment I'll share here real quick that's not exactly on a topic we've approached, but of course, this is a Memorial Day weekend where I'm parking upon. So Edgar Ortiz saying on Memorial Day weekend, be sure to remind someone that it is a day to remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice, not just to barbecue and get drunk, though. I do appreciate you leaving that in the realm of possibilities here. I mean, there's a lot of ways to celebrate the freedoms that we have been given, so not going to find any particular bad reason for unless you're actually hurting yourself or others. But also saying if you're the fit type, good luck on your Murph challenge. Burn it down. Yeah, I think you're talking about ruck marches or something like it. I know some of those going on as well. Of course, there are those commemorations going on out at Fort Bliss National Cemetery here locally. Take part in those if you can, particularly the flag cleanup afterwards. They definitely need help with that. But just as a reminder, that'll be the subject of the El Paso History Radio Show this weekend, airing at 10 to noon on News Radio 690 KTSM tomorrow, Saturday. So we're talking all about that and what's going on and the history behind it, both locally and nationally. So let's go ahead and take that next break, come back, reset after the top of the hour, and get to more of those phone calls. Don't forget that number to call. Full up at the moment, but just keep it handy. 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A gravel spill in the lower valley on Loop 375 southbound at the 10 eastbound. The connector ramp is closed due to that spill. Border Highway eastbound at Zaragoza, the exit ramp at Zaragoza closed due to heavy congestion. In the Spaghetti Bowl I-10 westbound at the 110 south exit, that's 22B, the left interchange ramp is blocked due to heavy traffic. And eastbound Edgemere at Saul Kleinfeld injury accident. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Ricardo, quote, "This is one of the greatest inventions ever. I know this may sound like I'm exaggerating, but this sucker is amazing. The first time I did it, I couldn't believe what came out of my sinuses. I could breathe with ease. My wife just bought one too. Thank you for this product," unquote. He's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, Navage, clean nose, healthy life.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of two people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690. News
An
on the
iHeart
hour radio
and a
station.
half.
Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio. I'm Chris Coraggio. Prices at the gas pump are holding steady as the holiday weekend gets underway. AAA reports the national average price for a gallon of regular remains at $3.57 today. That's up 3 cents from a week ago, but over $1 cheaper than a year ago. AAA estimates more than 37 million Americans to drive to their travel destinations this weekend. The Auto Club says prices could stabilize or fall after Memorial Day weekend. The Treasury Department is warning that the U.S. could now run out of cash to pay its bills by June 5th if Congress doesn't raise the debt ceiling. That's what Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in a letter this afternoon. Yellen previously told Congress that the deadline could be as soon as June 1st. The timeline gives lawmakers a little more breathing room to hammer out a deal and vote on a bill to avoid default. Negotiators from the White House and McCarthy's team say they have made progress towards a deal, but are still at odds on some issues, including strengthening work requirements for welfare programs. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton says the impeachment proceedings against him are illegal and unjust.
Every politician who supports this deceitful impeachment attempt will inflict lasting damage on the credibility of the Texas House, which I served in.
He made those comments today during a press conference that ended without taking questions. A Republican-led State House committee filed 20 articles of impeachment against Paxton on Thursday following testimony from investigators alleging criminal acts during his time in office. A secret investigation started in March after he asked the state legislature to approve the use of public funds for a more than $3 million settlement with former employees. The employees were fired after accusing Paxton of abusing his office to benefit a donor, allegations that were echoed in the hearing. The full House will vote on Paxton's impeachment tomorrow. A South Carolina judge is temporarily blocking the state's new 6-week abortion ban. Governor Henry McMaster signed the restriction into law yesterday and said it would save the lives of unborn children. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio. Pink Floyd co-founder Roger Waters is under criminal investigation in Germany for a costume he wore on stage. Video from Waters' Berlin concert shows him wearing a black trench coat and red armband as he fires a prop machine gun while performing a song from The Wall. Berlin police say the investigation is for incitement to hatred, as the costume resembles a Nazi uniform. The routine has been part of Waters' solo concerts for at least 3 decades, including a performance in Berlin back in 1990. Pink Floyd's The Wall concept album centers on a character who hallucinates that he is a fascist dictator. Federal investigators are looking into a possible hack of Fox News' internal systems that leaked unaired footage of former anchor Tucker Carlson. The Tampa Bay Times reports that the probe is related to an FBI search at media consultant and social media personality Tim Burke's house. The news comes weeks after several media outlets, including Vice, published unaired footage of Carlson making offensive comments about women. A Burger King in Florida is being ordered to pay a whopper of a settlement. A judge said the owner must pay $8 million to a customer who slipped and fell at the restaurant. The man suffered lower back injuries and needed surgery after falling on a foreign substance near the restroom of a Burger King in Hollywood. The lawsuit accused the restaurant of negligence for failing to ensure that the area and floor of the business was free and clear of any hazards. The award is one of the largest slip and fall verdicts in Florida history. A Northwest Georgia woman is facing charges for making a salad. Michael Kastner reports.
Investigators in Rome, Georgia say her mistake was breaking into a restaurant to make that salad. She allegedly entered Harvest Moon Cafe overnight last Saturday to make her meal, but the restaurant was forced to throw away $500 worth of food because she touched it with her bare hands. The 28-year-old was charged with theft by taking. I'm Michael Kastner.
And on this date in 1967, the Beatles released their album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, in the United Kingdom. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio.
iHeart gives you access to the hottest music, events, and deals. But on June 1st, we're giving you access like never before. It's iHeartRadio Access Day, our 24-hour way of saying thank you for listening. Go to iHeartRadioAccessDay.com today.
You could be the very first to win your way to our 2024 iHeartRadio Alter Ego in Los Angeles before the lineup is even announced.
Head to iHeartRadioAccessDay.com to register to receive reminders for when experiences like this and more go live this Thursday.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Come shop Memorial Day deals now at Lowe's. Prep meals for the whole family on the new Blackstone 28-inch flat-top grill. Just $298 for a limited time only. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 5/31. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
Okay, so we have the car payment, the rent, utilities,
and the repair bill.
What should we do?
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, we could have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. I have a huge announcement. Thank you for making us #1 in total sales this year. To stay #1, we're offering the biggest savings ever. Hey, Jojo, tell everyone about our exciting offers.
You got it, boss man. Get huge savings on the biggest selection of new and certified pre-owned vehicles in El Paso and surrounding areas at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Right now, get 10% off MSRP on all 2023 Ram 1500 Laramie trucks in stock. Get $5,500 off MSRP on 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport. Get super low 2.9% APR for 72 months or $5,250 cash allowance on 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star trucks. Plus, don't worry about your trade or credit. Our aggressive lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect. It's the season of huge savings at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance. All select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Hi, I'm Pastor Jeff Shreve, and I invite you to follow me as we pursue wisdom and peace through Pray.com's new podcast, Weekly Wisdom. Every week, we will embark on a journey through the Bible to discover encouraging truths and wisdom to last a lifetime. The Bible says wisdom is like a teacher standing at the gate, calling for us to hear her words before it's too late. Will you answer that call? Listen to Weekly Wisdom with Pastor Jeff Shreve on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in, including Trito Sack saying there are little government hobbits hiding under everyone's beds also. It's a big conspiracy about the man. Watch out. I mean, sure, there's reasonable things. I mean, everything you do online is being, if not, this is the part where I think it gets wrong here. It's not being watched by Big Brother. It's being watched by Big What Can I Sell You Next? Like, there is endemic monitoring in everything you do online. So that's just modern life. I'm not saying I'm happy about it, but it's kind of baked into everything these days. But other comments in, those dropping those likes and reacts, among other things. Bernadette Bandicole, Ida Beza Gardner, Matt Olson, Flaco Jimenez, Monica Cervantes, Robbie Flores, Sean Gardner, and at least one other, I do think, James Holmes. Have I missed anyone else out there? It doesn't show me the full list sometimes, which is annoying, but a lot of other comments coming in. And of course, we got those phone lines still full up at the moment, but keep that number handy if you would like to. 915-544-5876 for KTSM. Of course, we got a lot of calls in line, so let's just dive right back into it. We do have Eric on the east side here. Eric, how are you going to accuse me of supporting terrorism today? Eric, you there with us? No? Too strong of a line for you?
Hello?
Hey there, Eric.
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'll get to, what you were talking about in a moment. But Jerry is just a poorly informed anti-Semite who rejects the teachings of the Bible about foreigners because he gets his values and information from bad faith conservative information sources like The Blaze. The government is focusing on radical traditionalist Catholics, which are a specific sect that make up the largest group of serious anti-Semites in the country. They are rejected by the Vatican and view Jews as the perpetual enemy of Jesus. Past Vatican councils have rejected the view that Jews are collectively responsible for the crucifixion of Jesus. And, to compare the government following these anti-Semitic Catholics to the systemic extermination of 6 million Jews is minimizing the horrors of the systemic killing of Jews, like conservatives always casually do when they try to pretend they're some persecuted group. But, I wanted to discuss the revisionist history promoted by conservative media about the 2016 elections. As I mentioned before, Trump's campaign manager, Paul Manafort, who was Putin and Russia's right hand in Ukraine, openly admitted to giving Trump campaign strategy and data to Russian intelligence. Manafort also stated Trump's deputy campaign manager, Rick Gates, gave campaign data to Russian intelligence under his direction. Fact check this, please. Both were found by the courts to have lied to the FBI special counsel in congressional investigations into Trump-Russian collusion, and both were pardoned by Trump. Trump won 3 swing states required to win by the election, required to win the election by razor-thin margins. Russia's campaign on behalf of Trump targeted these swing states. Michigan, where Trump won by 0.2%, that was 10,702 votes. And to give perspective, Trump got 2.2 million votes. Pennsylvania, where Trump only won by 0.72%, which was 44,000 votes. Trump received 2.9 million votes there. Wisconsin, where Trump won by 0.77%, which was 22,000 votes. Trump received 1.4 million votes. Now, these are insanely small margins. One can honestly say that many individual actions, decisions, and forces by themselves individually single-handedly decided this election because of how few votes determined its outcome. The emails that were part of Russia's hack of the DNC were central to Trump, Russia's, the RNC, and right-wing media's campaign against Hillary Clinton. The DNC emails were leaked out in parts right before the Democratic National Convention and immediately after Trump's Access Hollywood tape was released, where he bragged about regularly sexually assaulting women. The Russian government's actions single-handedly determined the outcome of the 2016 election, and conservative information sources have all misled their followers into believing their actions were inconsequential or unimportant. And the Mueller report states, that if the special counsel's office and their investigation felt that they could clear the president of wrongdoing, they would have said so. Instead, the report explicitly states that it does not exonerate the president and explains that the office of the special counsel accepted the Department of Justice's policy written by Bill Barr that was just appointed by Trump at the time that a sitting president cannot be indicted. Trump showed how loyal to the country conservative media and conservatives were before his coup attempt on January 6th. So we shouldn't be surprised by, right-wing media sweeping Trump's January 6th coup attempt under the rug because they already swept Trump, Russia's the former Soviet Union single-handedly picking a U.S. president under the rug for partisan purposes. It's if conservatives actually cared about the country, they would have seriously researched these things and not blindly taken the word of people who worked for Trump and Fox News and con artists like Sean Hannity who share lawyers with Trump himself. So when this conservatives put party ahead of everything.
Okay. I mean, if you're saying that, anyone who was involved in January 6th can and should be held to account. I've been fairly behind that. And out of the people who've been indicted on, you mentioned Manafort and a few others here. Not registering as foreign agents, not being clear about that. I don't think that you're coming across quite the way you think you are when it comes to the idea of the changes into it. I think that there was a lot of bad information that was put out there. The ability of bad information to be put out at a faster rate than it takes to change it, overcome it, and or to play into biases. I've said for a long time now, anytime you find something that you agree with entirely, that's when you should be the most suspicious because it might be tailored most to you to try and influence you and sway you one way or the other. And that much is shown out in this modern age, because when anyone can put anything online.
Yeah, the DNC, the emails that were a part of Russia's hack on the DNC, they were a central part of Trump's campaign, the RNC's, and the Russia's own misinformation campaign targeting swing states. Those emails themselves easily made up for those 85,000 votes in those swing states. That's a minuscule amount. Those emails were released right before the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, and right the day of the Access Hollywood tape. Those emails that were a part of Russia's hack easily got Trump millions of votes, not just those 85,000 votes. That was the emails part of that DNC, Russia's hack on the DNC that determine the outcome of the election. It wouldn't be unfair to say that single-handedly changed the votes of 85,000 voters in those swing states, because they were all that were talked about. And if even in left-wing, far left-wing narrative-driven information sources like that were that's all that they were talking about, because they showed that Hillary worked with the DNC to against Sanders, and Sanders supporters made up 2 times the amount of votes. They didn't vote as the amount that Trump won by in those swing states. They didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, or they voted for Trump. And these DNC emails specifically focused on those specific voters, to the Sanders voters that who didn't vote for Hillary Clinton or who voted for Trump, and 2 times as many votes that the election was determined by in those swing states. And that pressure on them to not support Hillary Clinton came enormously from those emails that proved that there was coordination between Hillary and the DNC. And
listen, the hack was definitely, illegal. There were 12, actually, Department of Justice finding one of theirs from 2018, actually, 12 Russian intelligence officers indicted for federal crimes intended to interfere in the 2016 presidential election. And I do think it was probably a pretty boneheaded thing. I'm thinking of one speech in particular around the time of that, when the hack was announced, that Trump said something to the effect of, "And if anyone's got them, just send us our way." Yeah, that was just a boneheaded statement to make. I'll just be honest with you on that. Though also, let's be honest, the way the DNC was progressing with it wasn't great either. And this, of course, put a lot more focus onto it. But the whole coronation progression to getting Hillary Clinton as the nominee definitely rubbed a whole lot of voters the right way. I've known a few people I knew that were Bernie Sanders supporters here, Bernie bros, if you want to call them that. And I don't know of any that totally ended up flipping the script on it and then going and voting, but a lot of them, the ones that I've known, and therefore I'm assuming a lot more of them, just ended up not voting, feeling completely disenfranchised, because it turned out that the candidate they ended up supporting more often never had a snowball's chance in hell because of the way the things were going with it here. That wasn't handled great either, but also even before that point, I think it was pretty well apparent. So if you want to call that the swing point, you're entitled to your analysis and belief on it here. I don't know if I'm willing to put that one specific set of instances here, because 2016 was contentious as hell. And frankly, I gotta say that there was a lot of, having been in, regular broadcast media at that point as well, daily news media for KVIA at that point in time, there was a lot of still, even up until practically Inauguration Day, a lot of dismissal of the Trump candidacy, the Trump campaign. And frankly, I think it came from a misunderstanding of why was this guy even having any sway in the first place? Because, look at some of the other steps, the basket of deplorables comments, and it's a whole lot of, we just got to get rid of this guy and then we can get back to business as usual, and misunderstanding that there was a apparently whole subset of people out there that were just ticked off as hell, and maybe not totally a mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore kind of moment. I should probably get that as a button bar as well. But we're also just, there's a complete misunderstanding of the support network that developed around candidate Trump and therefore President Trump that I think still continues to be misunderstood. Previous caller referenced the campaign, the burgeoning ones against Donald Trump. And frankly, I think most of those are going to continue to run into some of those misunderstandings. DeSantis has proved pretty cautious for now, maybe looking for some little, chips, gaps in the armor, so to speak. But for the most part, I think I think it's right now, Donald Trump is the patron saint of the Republican Party. Whether or not that means he has control or not, whether or not it means he should have control or not, that's the debate to be had. But anyone who's truly wanting to campaign against him, I think, is going to continue to find this to be it's unprecedented. I think you just have to go back to like bull moose territory before this point to find a candidate who was running in such a way outside of the two-party dichotomy, because let's be honest, Donald Trump is a Republican basically because he ran as one. But if that hadn't worked out, if he hadn't been the nominee of it, I would have fully expected, and he said so himself when all the other candidates were on stage saying, if you get the nomination, if you will, we will respect that who does. If you don't get it, he said, no, I won't. So there's ego involved in this, and there's always going to be, whether or not he's willing to accept a role as kingmaker as opposed to, I don't know, actually being in charge, definitely having the reins. That'll be only time will tell here. But again, trying to say that anything besides, I mean, if there were margins that you're pointing to and you think those were a defining factor, again, you're entitled to your opinion on that. But I got to say that there still seems to be a lot of misunderstanding, and probably I'm not saying I have a full understanding of it either, because there was a lot to be misunderstood. But the way that this campaign has worked and the way it has kind of breached the surface at various points over the years, and yes, during events that I don't exactly find favorable either, like the whole, birtherism or other things. Those were not bugs, but features, and kind of the way that this has been progressing this whole time. And that's the part that I think continues to be misunderstood, and why this will still probably be a factor here in 2024.
Yeah, it's really important to acknowledge that, not you, but everyone on this station. I've listened to everyone on here, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh back during that time. And they were all trying to act like the Russian involvement in electing Trump, that, he worked for Russia, was trying to help both sides, or just sow division. And, when these investigations showed that Russia, it wouldn't be intellectually honest to say Russia single-handedly determined the outcome by targeting these swing states and with misinformation and hacking the DNC, and everyone on this station is acting like Russia's involvement was no big deal. They're making conservatives into pro-Putin conservatives, which, would make Ronald Reagan roll in his grave, because they're putting conservatism or their conservative tribe ahead of loyalty to the country and our democratic institutions, which Russia had assaulted and impacted in the greatest attack on our sovereignty in American history.
I'll agree with you on this point, that anyone that ends up supporting Vladimir Putin over anything American is someone that I'm going to find myself disagreeing with quite a bit. Let's just put it that way. Because Vladimir Putin, whatever you may think of him, if you like him or not, does not have the best interest of anyone besides Vladimir Putin. And I've said it a long time. I've long accepted that I'm never going to be able to travel to the two largest, at least by land area nations of Asia, and of course Europe, Russia or China, because of all the stuff I've said very publicly on the record about them and being unopposed to them. But I'll say this again: I would not trust Vladimir Putin as far as I could throw him, and given the lay of security and paranoia and the giant tables he'd have between me and him, I'd never be able to lay a finger on to him. But I will say this: that again, trying to say that anything besides a fluke or any single event was part of it, part of the reason that we keep seeing Donald Trump continue on in politics, is a misunderstanding of it. But I will also say this: we do our own things here. We do our own things on this show. So we're still not going to be the whipping boy for anything else that happens in any other form of media. We talk about the things that we talk here. So appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth, as much as we can have a discussion here, even if we got to take that next break right now. And we have to take that break. So appreciate the point in the call for the discussion aspects of it and the ability to have it back and forth, which again, I do appreciate. So let's go ahead and take that next break. That number to call again, 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
crash on I-10 westbound at Chelsea exit is causing a backup 5-minute delays back to Airway, Lower Valley, southbound at the I-10 East Connector ramp. That ramp is closed due to a gravel spill. Eastbound on Border Highway, the Zaragoza exit closed due to heavy congestion. And I-10 eastbound starting to slow down a little bit from Trans Mountain to the Patriot. It's a 5-minute delay. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Come shop Memorial Day deals now at Lowe's. Save on appliances with up to an additional $1,000 off select major kitchen appliances. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 5/31. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See store Lowe's.com for details.
A catalytic converter is an important component of your car's exhaust system. They can cost several $1,000s to replace. Cats can be removed in under a minute and have a high scrap value. Keep your vehicle safe from cat burglars. Park in well-lit areas. Install a protective device. Have your VIN number etched onto your catalytic converter. It's a total catastrophe. If your catalytic converter is stolen, lock it down. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Your invitation to summer has arrived with 50% off everything for a limited time through Memorial Day weekend at Banana Republic Factory. Think breezy dresses, linen suiting, and more polished, sun-ready styles. Only at your nearest Banana Republic Factory store.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Memorial Day sale, May 26th through June 5th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $31.14. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Your invitation to summer has arrived with 50% off everything for a limited time through Memorial Day weekend at Banana Republic Factory. Think breezy dresses, linen suiting, and more polished, sun-ready styles. Only at your nearest Banana Republic Factory store.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk, getting in depth on some things, but well, there's definitely a lot of stuff we're getting into today, including one thing I didn't get to here, which Eric had said online earlier, that I was defending gerrymandering. How the hell do you get what I said about the only state that probably doesn't have gerrymandering is Wyoming, as therefore being in favor of gerrymandering? But there's actually, I was incorrect in one way. I thought Rhode Island would have been small enough. Rhode Island somehow has 2 representatives, which there are actually 7 states that don't. Alaska, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Vermont, and Delaware. Rhode Island has 2? I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, gerrymandering bad. Electors choosing who elect them is not a good thing. Anyway, let's get back to some of the comments and calls here. Again, the phone line open, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Well, some other comments, including Leonidas Bermuda saying Putin needs to be taken out. Zelensky does too. Both are corrupt. I mean, I'm not exactly in favor of Putin, but Ukraine was also very noted for corruption before this point. I'm not saying there's a lot of this is a good versus evil, but there's definitely like bad versus worse bad, lesser of 2 evils or weevils if you go here. Anyway, let's get back to those phone lines now. We do have Henry in Central on the line with us right now. Henry, thanks for joining us.
How you doing, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Well, I'll tell you what, one of your previous callers pointed out a contradiction in the, I believe it was the 4-page summary of the Dignity Act of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I may be able to shed some light on that, and then I do have a couple of other comments.
Okay.
I believe the discrepancy had to do with building up border barriers. And I'll
Right.
read the first bullet point under border security.
Sure.
It says it requires CBP to construct and deploy enhanced barriers where it is most effective and beneficial to establishing an operational advantage at the border. And then if you jump down 2 or 3 bullet points, it says no funding for restarting construction at the Trump border
Right.
wall or similar cross-border barrier projects. Now that seems to be like a contradiction, and it really is. However, the key words here are operational advantage. And
Right.
If you jump down 3 or 4 more bullet points, this is where the little fancy, tricky lawyer talk comes into play.
Okay.
Operational control. Operational advantage replaces operational control, which means that it replaces the current definition of operational control, which is currently statutorily defined as the prevention of all unlawful entries into the United States, and it redefines it to operational advantage, which is the ability to detect, respond, and interdict border penetrations in areas deemed as high priority for threat potential or other national security objectives. Basically, what that means is they are now going to remove barriers for asylum reasons and for economic reasons, and just focus on people bringing truckloads of maybe fentanyl or truckloads of fertilizer to build bombs. So it's a very tricky way to kind of allow a very narrowing of the definition of lawful and unlawful entry. Now, I'm going to move on real quick here. I did download the 500-page document. One of your other callers there a couple days ago,
Sure.
he urged your listeners to educate themselves. So I'm doing that. I download the 500-page document, but I'm also downloading this 4-page summary on
Sure.
the website of Ms. Escobar, our supposed representative. Now, if the 500-page document is anything like this 4-page summary, then I almost don't have to read the 500-page summary. And I'll tell you why. I don't see there's a whole lot of paper shuffling going on here. You know, it reminds me of that street performer that pulls out the little table and he's got the 3 little white cups and a little red ball, and you place your money down and you gotta figure out which cup the little ball is under while he shuffles stuff around. If you read this summary, that's exactly what it sounds like. Everything sounds very highfalutin, as we used to say, and important, like, increased funding for increased personnel. Ooh, that sounds great. Funding for investments in border communities. Boy, sounds great. Southern border threat analysis. That sounds great. Funding for expansion. Boy, that sounds great. The Dignity Program. That sounds great. And my question, Andrew, is to what end? To what end is all this stuff? And I can tell you that in reading this summary and doing a word search in the 500-page document, I don't see anywhere in there where the philosophy of stopping unlawful immigration into this country shows up. So I hope that helps educate some of your listeners. Now, I'm going to continue to dig through this 500-page document, but from what I can tell here and from what the word search that I've done on both the summary and the document, I don't see any philosophy that tries to control our borders. Now, I don't know how you feel about that, but I've spent the past 24 hours looking through this. What do you think about that?
Honestly, what I'd tell you to do is that it might be a little extreme to go straight from the 4-pager to the 500-pager. There is a 50-pager. That is the Dignity Act section by section. That's also available over on escobar.house.gov. It's the section by section one that's down there at the same at the release that's on this. So I would recommend that one first, because that might be, I'll be honest, I've delved into legislation before and it gets Byzantine as hell. It starts being about replace this one item on one line by certain. It's not the most useful use of the time I've often found in terms of actually breaking down legislation, unless you've got unless you're one of like the congressional staff that is unfortunately tasked with doing this. I feel real bad for the office interns sometimes, but that might be a more useful one in order to get. So that's the one I'm delving through currently. I will say that it does have some things when it comes to kind of the infrastructure. Talking about strengthening the requirements for barriers, flight hours, security, technological program advancement, landowner and rancher security enhancement. So, and even things like eradication of carrizo, cane, and salt cedar, which could have some interesting effects in our area, particularly on the salt cedar. So that might be a better use of your time, if I may make the suggestion.
That sounds like a reasonable suggestion. I'm going to do that, but it brings to mind that saying, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. There's a whole lot of shuffling of wording going around, but I still don't see any overarching philosophy of protecting our sovereignty and our borders. So, but I appreciate that suggestion. One more quick thing I'll ask you is,
sure.
Has our Mr. Northeast and our Mr. Philosopher called in with their phone number so I can drive a busload of migrants over to their house? Have they called in?
They have called in. They have not made that specific volunteering on their part. I don't believe.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I know there's this discussion that we shouldn't make people forced to house migrants in their home. However, they have no problem using the power and the might of the federal government to coerce us to use our tax money to provide the same services. So, like I said before a couple of weeks ago, I took money out of my own pocket to help pay for a very nice woman to get her path to citizenship. That's the proper way to do it, legally. So with that, I'll hang up and I'll continue listening. So thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point on the call. Do appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. With that, actually, I think we got to take that next break as it is. So coming out of this break, we'll continue talking about this, but get to more of the points, more of the calls, more of everything we can squeeze in as we're getting towards the end of the show. We're not there yet, so stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. That phone number again, 915-544-5876, for KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A controversy at El Paso City Hall continues. City Rep Cassandra Hernandez and former City Rep Claudia Rodriguez are accused of abusing their city-issued gas cards. Originally, the El Paso Police Department said that the case was closed when the DA's office declined the case. But now, El Paso DA Bill Hicks says that was a miscommunication. He says the El Paso police detective misunderstood. Hicks said that led to an erroneous claim that the DA's office had indicated a lack of evidence for a crime. It's unclear if that means that the investigation will be reopened. And we're waiting to learn more after two motorcyclists were killed in a crash in south central El Paso. It happened last night on Loop 375. According to police, several motorcycles were involved in the crash. Two were killed, but no other information was immediately available. This has been your KFOX 14 news update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Traffic slowing down on the I-10 westbound after a crash at the Chelsea exit. 5-minute delays from the Airway over to the Patriot. In the Lower Valley, Loop 375 southbound at the I-10 East connector ramp. That ramp is closed due to a gravel spill. Heavy congestion, Border Highway eastbound at Zaragoza. And eastbound on the I-10, it's slow from Trans Mountain to the Patriot. Less than a 5-minute delay, though. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. A look at your Memorial Day weekend forecast. Partly cloudy skies for our Saturday. 10% chance of an isolated storm for tomorrow. We'll see partly to mostly cloudy skies for Saturday. Sunday, a little breezy at times. More sun, high around 90 degrees. And then we go mostly sunny and breezy for Memorial Day Monday with a high around 92. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com.
Come shop Memorial Day deals now at Lowe's. Save on appliances with up to an additional $1,000 off select major kitchen appliances. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 5/31. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See store at Lowe's.com for details.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but costs as low as $3 per dose? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at just $3 per dose. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but only $3 per dose. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
Come shop Memorial Day deals now at Lowe's. Prep meals for the whole family on the new Blackstone 28-inch flat-top grill. Just $298 for a limited time only. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 5/31. Selection varies by location while supplies last. This report is sponsored by Lowe's.
I am a veteran. I spent 2 years alone and homeless.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
My victory was finding the support to get back on my feet.
DAV helps veterans of every generation get the benefits they've earned.
I'm a veteran. When I got out, I felt like nowhere was safe.
So veterans can reach victories, great and small.
My victory was finding the help I needed. Thanks to DAV, now I feel like I'm human again.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Oh, there's a lot of discussions going on here, but the idea that gerrymandering is bad is not one that I expected to come up here. Yeah, I don't feel it should be a bad one. That gerrymandering is a bad thing, regardless of who does it, even if you're thinking that it's whataboutism. But anti-democratic in terms of the selection of that is a bad thing. And if you're saying that you're defending it, I'm really going to need you to try harder at trolling at that point here. Anyway, let's go back to the phone lines now. We do have Nate over on the east side here with us right now. Nate, thanks for joining us.
And thank you, Andrew, and bless you for your show this Friday afternoon. I just want to take just a moment to remind the audience and our great community of El Paso, Texas. Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. begins the opening ceremony for the and sacred briefing for the placement of the flags at the Fort Bliss National Cemetery. This year, our goal is to place at least 45,000 flags, one for every headstone. It takes about 2 hours. So I'm inviting all people of goodwill, servicemen and women, active, retired, or from whatever, football players, families, to come out and join us as we place those flags. It's a pleasant sight to see.
Mm-hmm.
We get out and get some fresh air and rub elbows with our neighbors, and let's break some of the ice that's going on here. And thank you, Andrew, for this minute to make this. I'm not a part of the Fort Bliss community per se, but I am a volunteer member on the committee of the cemetery. So I'm just speaking for the public, to come out. And of course, be reminded that on Monday is the actual Memorial Day celebration.
Absolutely.
On Monday. And then following that on the 3rd, that week and up to the 3rd, they ask for volunteers to come back out and to help retrieve the flags. That's all I have on that. So thank you, Andrew.
Yep, absolutely. Would certainly encourage people to be able to do so. I'll unfortunately be engaged with some business activities at that point in time. But of course, there's the also then the actual ceremonies on Monday when it's going on, starting at 9 a.m. that day. But even if you miss those, there's plenty of chance to go out there. They will be having guides out there throughout most of the weekend, I do believe. But also, they got the flag pickup in the week after, culminating June 2nd. So a lot of important things, a lot of ways people can give back and celebrate this in the way that I think is best intention when it comes to celebrating the freedoms and, of course, the sacrifices and commemorating that when it comes to the significance of this holiday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well said. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you for the point of the call and the reminder there. You have a good one. Okay, let's get to another call. See what we can squeeze in before the end of the show here. We have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, hello, Andrew. Earlier, Raul cited an article. You said it was harder to vote in Texas than any other state. So I decided to do a search to find out, where that article came from. And I believe he mentioned the Texas Tribune. And the first thing that came up in my search, it did say that Texas was the most difficult state to vote in the United States. But according to the study, this study was compiled by political scientists at Northern Illinois University, Jacksonville University, and Wuhan University in China.
Yes, that is. I think I'm looking at the right article. Yeah, analysis. It's harder to vote in Texas than in any other state. By Ross Ramsey, dated October 19th of 2020.
Yes. Okay. So let's. He tells a story, not the story. Okay. Raul, Eric, and others who say CRT is not being taught in El Paso schools. SEL, social emotional learning, has been described as a Trojan horse, a gateway to CRT, and SEL has been fully implemented in the El Paso school system. Look it up. All you have to do is look up EPISD and SEL, and it's been fully implemented in the El Paso school system. So, again, a story, not the story. Raul says that Mrs. Beals is not an expert on schools. So that makes it to where she's not real, she's not intelligent enough to be on the school board. Well, think about all the things that the experts have said about COVID. Wear masks that don't work. Keep kids out of school, even though the chance of a kid getting a serious case of COVID was less than the flu. Inflation is transitory. That's all by all the experts are saying, and we're saying that people should take Paxlovid. Now they're saying that you should take Paxlovid, a drug that has over 75 black box warnings associated with it, instead of ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, some of the safest drugs with no black box warnings ever, and had been shown to work in Mexico City, Uttar Pradesh, and other countries throughout the world. Okay, again, and all you have to do is do the homework. You find out what really is true and what these people are really saying. I mean, Paxlovid, just for everybody's information, it has an AIDS drug component called ritonavir, which carries a black box warning about severe adverse consequences, including death, from interactions with a large number of commonly used drugs. And it made it where it was available to be prescribed by pharmacists who really aren't doctors, by allowing them to do it under the Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act, or the PrEP Act. But the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons note that the PrEP Act's liability waivers also significantly reduce the ability of anyone harmed by Paxlovid to receive compensation. So, and also it is a matter that Raul, be on the lookout. The FBI may be out to look for you. You may have a knock on your door because they have designated the Catholics are violent extremists that are under scrutiny. That is what the DOJ and the FBI has said about Catholics. Look it up. That's what they said. And one more last thing. Remember, you can't have communism without the kids. We've got to protect our kids from the stuff that is being taught in our schools. You can't have communism without the kids.
Okay, it's an interesting perspective on that one here. I guess whenever it comes to the schools and school board issues, and just as a note here, we're going to be having on, again, have it on the schedule. We'll see what actually come up with after we get past the holiday to have on the other candidate in that District 6 race on the show with us, and as well as we get past those as much more as we can before Election Day, of course, here. But I'll just say this, whenever it comes to any potential future children I'm considering or looking at the possibility of, I can't imagine not being involved in their education. I mean, it's fraught, the world that we inhabit these days, with all of the distractions, all of the inherent pitfalls that feel way more accessible than it was as a kid. I mean, sure, I could have, gone and played in traffic as a kid, and yet there's like a physical restraint that could have happened there when it comes through devices or other ways, the kind of content that's available, the stories that have come out even previous years about, like, say, the YouTube videos focused on kids that end up being disturbing as hell in nature. Just give me wondering pause if, like, what the hell would I be doing bringing a kid into this world? But like I said, considerations abound here, and I just got to say, being involved with the kids, and I'm not saying that anyone who has even called into this program or been a part of it has been saying, I just send the kids off and the school will take care of them. That attitude does feel more pervasive these days. I have talked to people or seen people respond to things in conversations I've been involved in, more specifically online. I don't think I've actually met these people, along the lines of, well, they send them off to school and the school takes care of them. I just got to deal with what I got at home. And I think that attitude, more than anything else, has been one of the more destructive elements of I don't need to be involved, the school take care of all of it. Like, I've literally heard parents, like teachers recounting, being told that, well, they're acting out at school, so why aren't you correcting it? When it's like, are you parenting your children? I really gotta say that people being involved in it comes back to shopping cart theory, frankly, but people being more involved, and including going out and voting on this, is a very good first step, but it is only a first step. People need to be involved with this. I will fully agree on that point.
And one other thing, Eric, in 2020, Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff was forced to release over 50 individual transcripts of testimony that were given in front of the House Intelligence Committee in closed hearings and under oath. And every one of the people under oath were asked if they had any evidence whatsoever of President Trump's campaign or President Trump having any collusion with the Russians. Every one of them under oath that were saying on TV, on radio, everything, that there was evidence in plain sight. Every one of them said under oath that they had no evidence of any such collusion, including Adam Schiff, James Clapper, Andrew McCabe, Ben Rhodes, Samantha Power, and Susan Rice, all former deputies and officials under Obama. So that is, and Adam Schiff is still saying that there was a collusion. So they're all liars. And you should look at that article to find out for yourself. Again, look up these things. You might find that maybe you might be wrong. And with that, stay well, stay safe, God bless, and let's go, Brandon.
Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Thank you.
And with that, I think we got to take that last break right now. So coming out of this break, we'll tell you a little bit more about what we got planned for you, including, of course, we got going on this weekend. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this quick break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 news update. A controversy at El Paso City Hall continues.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690
If you're on the I-10 westbound, as you make your way around that crash at the Chelsea exit, maybe stay over to the left. Left lane seemed to be getting by a little bit quicker. And about 10-minute delays from Airway over to the Patriot. And we've got a new crash northbound Joe Battle at Montana. Multi-vehicle accident there is off on the right shoulder. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Come shop Memorial Day deals now at Lowe's. Save on appliances with up to an additional $1,000 off select major kitchen appliances. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 5/31. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See store Lowe's.com for details.
Okay, so we have the car payment, the rent, utilities,
and the repair bill.
What should we do?
I know. I'm going to CashNetUSA.com. I can apply in minutes, get an instant decision, and if approved, we could have the money in our account as soon as the same business day.
When you need money fast, be the hero. Go to CashNetUSA.com to apply for the money you need now. The exact timing as to when your loan funds will be available will be determined by your banking institution.
Car crimes are on the rise. Protect yourself and your valuables this holiday season. When you park your car, always lock it down. Never leave keys in your vehicle. Never leave your windows down. Don't leave your valuables in plain sight, or you might return to a terrible sight. Try to park in well-lit areas. And most importantly, always lock it down. Brought to you by the Insurance Council of Texas and the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority. Learn more at lockitdowntx.com.
Your invitation to summer has arrived with 50% off everything for a limited time through Memorial Day weekend at Banana Republic Factory. Think breezy dresses, linen suiting, and more polished, sun-ready styles. Only at your nearest Banana Republic Factory store.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Memorial Day sale, May 26th through June 5th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $31.14. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, get 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Your invitation to summer has arrived with 50% off everything for a limited time through Memorial Day weekend at Banana Republic Factory. Think breezy dresses, linen suiting, and more polished, sun-ready styles. Only at your nearest Banana Republic Factory store.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. We are beyond out of time here for this program. We try to cram in as much as we can. I'm always willing to entertain actual substantive discussion and about the issues specifically. If you like someone or don't like someone, that's entirely your opinion. If it's a non-falsifiable belief, I really got nothing for you. Not here to change minds, but maybe encourage that we at least think about the way we think about things, even. That's a little bit too meta. Anyway, of course, coming up for you this weekend, as I mentioned, Saturday morning, 10 to noon, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, the El Paso History Radio Show, going into Memorial Day itself, and specifically Fort Bliss National Cemetery. So, a bit on the history of both, the transfer from Decoration Day, how it was declared, the apparent fight that there is still over, or controversy anyway, about where Memorial Day was actually established, but then also establishment of Fort Bliss and its history of that. So be sure to tune in for that. And of course, we will be off on Memorial Day. We'll have some replacement programming in hand for you. So we'll be back live in the studio for you all on Tuesday with, again, more of those interviews, getting more into a couple of things working on for you there, getting both into the election, more of it, as well as seeing what we can get to about at that point, the Texas legislative session that was, though. If we were not taking calls today, that would have been our major topic about the grenade that has gone off in the terms of political discussion with the impeachment debate with the Attorney General, but we'll talk more about that on Monday. So in the meantime, I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Appreciate all of you. If you want to talk about the issues that affect us here in the borderland and, of course, beyond on Fridays, this place we do it every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So until then, until next time, I want you all to stay safe out there, look twice for motorcycles when on the road, and have a great weekend and a happy, celebratory, and solemn Memorial Day. See y'all on Tuesday.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier crash on the I-10 westbound at Chelsea, still holding traffic back a little bit. About 5-minute delays from Airway to the Patriot. That crash is on the right shoulder. There's an accident northbound Joe Battle at Montana involving several vehicles off on the right shoulder. And just a reminder, in the Lower Valley, Loop 375 at the I-10 East Connector ramp. That ramp is closed due to a gravel spill this afternoon. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Haley, quote, Navage is the best thing I bought. I love it. My nose feels so clear now and I can breathe. I've been struggling with a stuffy nose for weeks. I bought Navage and it's amazing. Or this one. I use Navage every night, could not imagine life without it. I have 5 cats, and before I found Navage, I was a clogged mess. Now I breathe so much better, unquote. Those are 2 of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose,